Welcome to the LeagueApps Admin Training Webinar Series. This session, we will be going over our LeagueApps scheduling tools. Before we get into things here, just to give a little bit of background about myself, my name is Stephen Boyd, and I'll be your LeagueApps expert guide through this webinar. I joined LeagueApps about 2 years ago, was born and raised in Bergen County, New Jersey. Grew up playing just about every sport you could think of. I won't read them all out, but you can say that sports have definitely had a profound impact on my life. And then fast forward, I graduated from East Stroudsburg University of Pennsylvania. While I was there, I studied sport management as well as business management and turned my passion for sports into a profession. Alrighty, so we will be going through a few different sections here today. We have schedule creation, schedule management, and then standings and scores as well. Afterwards, we will have a live Q&A, so please go ahead and add any questions that you guys may have into the chat. We'll get to those at the end during that Q&A session. Alrighty, so we're gonna actually get into the platform here. So the first portion here that we're going to be going through is schedule creation. You'll see here that I have a tournament pulled up that I created. And what we're going to go through first is the recurring schedules. I'm also going to note before we start here that you'll see that in this program here, there's a schedule tab on the grouped program session. That's because this is a tournament. The schedule here only appears on the grouped program for the tournament types. All other program types, you'll need to go into the actual age divisions or sub programs here. If it's a standalone program, you'll have just the single schedule there anyways. But for this instance, we're going to go into the schedule here. The first thing we're going to add is a recurring event. So these are great for practices or for anything that you're going to be, any type of event that you're going to be having on a weekly basis or day-to-day basis. So what we're going to do here is click add an event. We can put an event name. I'm just going to put in test practice. You can choose what type we want to use here. So there's quite a few. This one, again, I'm just going to choose practice. From here, we're able to choose the location of where the practice will take place. And then you can also add in sub-locations here as well. You can add in a location note, bring shoes or bring shoes. And then here you can choose the team that this event is going to apply to. If it's a program-wide event and it applies to all teams, you can just leave it as program-wide event there. Or if it applies to one specific team, we'll choose that team here. And then we can choose, say it's, say we do Monday or Wednesdays at 5 p.m. each week. And then here we can enter in the end date and time as well, but I'm just going to leave that blank for now. And then we can add in the repeating event. So if it repeats daily, so if you guys practice 5 p.m. every day, we can do daily. If it repeats every week, we do weekly, and then monthly as well as the other options. So in this instance, I'm going to choose repeat weekly. And then you can choose how many weeks that this event is going to repeat for. So let's say it's 8 weeks, 8-week program. And then we can go ahead and add the event here. You can add in the description as well. And then you'll see it populates an event at that time each week for those 8 weeks. So that is how you will create recurring events. And then the next schedule option here that we're going to go through is the schedule import. So if we go over here to import schedule, we'll click on that. Oh, so right now it's actually technically unavailable, but you will be able to. There's actually a template that you download, and it gives you. Let me actually pull it up. we'll just we'll continue on without that portion. Go back here. All righty. So anyways, yeah, if you do go to that import schedule section, like I said, you'll be able to download a template. You will put in days, times, the teams that are going to be playing, and then you'll have the location, the date as well, and then you can add in notes. Usually the schedule import we recommend for more complex schedules. So if you have multiple teams in a program and they all practice on different days and times, have different game times, everything along those lines, you'll want to make sure to use that import schedule feature. If we actually, another thing to note is that if you have a travel team or something along those lines, and you're playing against other opponents who may not be in the program itself, what you'd want to do first is actually go over to the teams page here, and you can add additional teams in for the teams that you will be playing against. That way, when you go ahead and import that schedule, you can add in those teams' names, and then you can import, the schedule with those specific teams and be able to tie them back to those games. So that's again a bit about the import schedule feature there. The generate schedule feature is the next one that we're going to go over. So if we go into generate schedule here, this is going to be used more for leagues, tournaments, things along those lines where you have a relatively simple schedule. I shouldn't say simple because it can, it can accommodate some more complex ones, but there may be a little bit of work at the end. So for here, we'll just do regular round robin. We'll select the teams to include on the schedule, and we'll check all of them, and we can choose the division that they're in if we want. This one I'll just leave blank, and next, enter days and times. We'll enter in the start date of when the tournament starts. So say it's the 12th, and then say this is a long tournament and it goes a few weeks. We can put it to the 31st. And then we choose the days in which those games are going to be generated for. So say we're just going to do Saturdays and Sundays at 1 o'clock. And then say we do 2 o'clock as well. So we have two different times there. Next, we'll click on next and enter locations. Here, we're going to choose the locations of which the games will be able to take place at. So we'll first choose the park here. Actually, I think that this one's already chosen. So we'll use this one. And then we can choose the specific courts or fields that we'll be able to use. I'm just going to check on these two here. And then we'll go to the next, and you can see that the information is on your right side here, and you can actually go and just edit these as you're going through if you put in the incorrect information. So we'll go next here and enter settings. Okay, so now each team will say that they're going to play 10 games, or let's do 8 games, and we'll do 1 game per week. And then we will go ahead and generate that schedule. Okay, so it now says we can't generate the schedule, bound robin, games team requested. Alrighty, so now it just gives us 2 options here in which we can either generate it with it being unbalanced, or we can put in either of these 2 options here to either make sure that each team plays a certain amount of games, or keep the games per team to allow an uneven schedule. So I'm actually going to change this, and we're going to make sure that each team can play that certain number, and we'll rerun that generator. And then now we get the full schedule here with the games each week on the days and times that we chose. Again, you may not be able to get 100% of the schedule that you want through the schedule generator when you generate it. So if you need to, what you can do is, well, you have the option to accept the schedule or accept and then notify league participants. I'm just going to accept the schedule here. And then afterwards, after we accept this, obviously I have some of these practices in here, but we're able to go in and actually edit these events now in these games. So if we click on the edit pencil, you're able to go in and say, you don't have the certain field at, the one time that you put in for one of the days. So we could just go in and then, change this from 1 to 2 o'clock. And then we'll save that. This actually leads us into the next segment that we're going to be going through, which is schedule management. We just actually kind of went through how we're going to edit an event. And actually that's what we're going to continue to go through. So the first portion is adding, editing, or removing schedules. So if we need to add one, we went through how to add an event in recurring. We can do that in singular form as well with single events. And then, if we need to go in there and edit anything, now we have the schedule here, and then next to all of these scheduled events, we have an edit pencil, which you can click on. And then if it's the game here, you're able to edit, both teams, who's playing, what type of game it is. So if it's a regular season game, if it's a championship game, or anything along those lines, or if it's a playoff, you can edit that. And then you can also, of course, edit the location which you chose, as well as the game dates and times. You can also assign officials to events and games games as well. And you can only actually assign a single official to a game, but you do have the option to do so. You can also add in additional notes. And then a nice thing is that if you're editing an event, you're able to notify participants of any changes to this game directly from that, changing that event. So we can just click on this, notify participants of any changes, and you can even view a sample email of what that's going to look like. And it gives us right here, it tells you, hey, your originally scheduled game has been changed. Change notes are in red. Refresh the page here. And then I was just going through that last portion there, but let's go back into this event. And then again, you can notify the participants, and then you can save game and add another, or you can just save the game. And then if you ever need to delete a single event, you can do the same thing by clicking that edit pencil and then come into here, and then you have this delete button down here at the bottom. So you're able to go in and delete a single event, say, one team isn't going to be able to make it or something along those lines, and you just have to remove that game altogether. We can go ahead and delete it. And then it asks you, yes, do you want to delete this? So we could delete that game. And then you're also able to delete games directly from up here, actually. So if you needed to, say, start your schedule over from scratch, we can go ahead and click delete games, and it will delete all of the games on this schedule. The events will still be on here. Those you need to go in and delete individually. So if we needed to delete a specific practice, we can edit that practice. And then actually, so for this one, this is a good example. It's a recurring event. So it asks you if you want to edit this recurring event only in this instance, or if you want to edit all events in this group. So we'll just do it in this instance, and then we're able to go in and edit it specifically for this one. And then, if we need to delete it, we can do that or cancel it. If you cancel an event, it actually stays on your calendar, and you can notify participants of the cancellation. And it will stay here, but it will say that, the event itself was canceled. Another nice thing is that you can also edit an event if it's a recurring event, and edit all the events in that group. So say we need to now change practice is actually going to be at 6 o'clock going forward. So we're going to change those events to 6 o'clock and then update it. And then also another way that you can delete games is by clicking on this delete games here. So if you have a cluster of games that are all together, so these ones, it looks like, have some some practices between, but if there were one on top of the other, you can click delete games and it would delete both of the games. In this instance, because there's a practice between, we would have to go in and individually delete them. Or of course, we can go ahead and click this delete games, which will delete all the games on this schedule. Next thing is notifications. So obviously you guys saw that we can send out notifications directly from an event while you're editing it. We can also send one out as soon as the schedule is generated if we want to notify the participants that the schedule is ready to go. But another important thing is to make sure that the program preferences are configured correctly. So if we go over here to settings and then to preferences, you're able to choose when you're sending out game and event reminders, or you can turn them off altogether. But most people will want to have those on so that the members can receive a reminder before those games. And with this drop down list, we can choose between 1 and 5 days before the game to send them that notification, and it's automated. So as soon as team 1 has a game either 1 or 2 days, or an event 1 or 2 days before, they'll get an email saying that, reminding them you have a game that's upcoming in a couple days. It will actually tell them the details of that game as well. So the teams that they'll be playing, or if it's an event, it'll say what that event is and then the time that the event or game is supposed to be at. So that's definitely an important thing there to have on is your actual notifications. The next thing that we're going to go through here are standings and scores. And again, if anyone has any questions on anything that we've gone over, please go ahead and add them into the chat. I will be answering, those questions once we get through the webinar here. So anyways, next thing we're going to do are standings and scores. So what we're going to do is, well, first we need to obviously make sure that the standings are, okay, good. So they're there. They are enabled. And what we're going to do is first, we're going to go through the site-wide settings actually for these standings. So if we go over here to settings and then schedule and standings here, we're able to set what we want the schedule settings to be for the entire site. So a couple things here. We have a scoring method, which is important for you guys to make sure is set correctly, because we have game versus match based, which certain sports obviously will be using match based scoring methods, and then others will be using game based. So I believe that volleyball uses match based and a few other sports as well. But if not, you can just leave that as game. Next is the standings ranking is based off of. So if we want the standings rankings to be based off of point differential or winning percentage, we would choose one of those here. And then there's the win percentage display, which just displays what percentage that scale is actually in, if it's 1% versus 100% scale. And then we have point values here, which is another important thing. So if someone wins a game, do they receive 1 point, or do they receive additional points for that win? Points for an overtime win, do they receive an extra point if they win in overtime? Points for a loss. So if they don't receive any points, I'm guessing for a loss, we would just leave that blank. Points for an overtime loss, there's 1 point here. And then obviously we can go in and change these to whatever. Say we needed 0, we can put that in. Get 1 point for a tie, and then 1 point for a deduction, or for a deduction or a forfeit. So if someone isn't able to attend a game, or if there are not enough players to participate in that game, it may end up being a forfeit, and then you can put in a specific point percentage or point deduction addition for that. Next thing is going to be tiebreaker rules. So we have first off, there's 3 different here. So we have the primary. So this is going to be the one that is the first tiebreaker. Secondary is the next tiebreaker, and then fallback is the last one if both of these are tied up. And then we can choose, different ones here. We have team with more points, team with more wins, team with less points and scored against, team with more standings points, and then teams with higher points and score differential. So we can choose any of them. Say we want to do a team with more points. We could do, all of them are just team with more points. That wouldn't really make much sense though, because then all the tiebreakers are the same. We would probably do, team with more points, team with more wins, and team with the less points scored against maybe. And then you can also choose if you want to exclude playoff games from standings calculations, exclude championship games, include cross-program games and standings calculations. This is a good one if you have, say, a grouped program like we had before with multiple divisions as sub-programs within that. You can actually include games from, teams who are playing in one division and another. If they play each other, you can either include or exclude those in the standings calculations. And then if divisions are enabled for a program, rank these teams by division. So we can actually create divisions, and I'll go back in and kind of show you guys a couple of those options as well. And then there's also the fields that you want to actually display on the standings. So you can turn these on and off depending on which fields that you want to actually display and be able to be seen on those standings. And then we'll go ahead and save the rules. Next thing that we're going to go through is entering scores. So once we have those games all created, and let me go back into, oh, no, it wasn't this one. Let's go back into our dodgeball tournament. I'll go into the schedule here. Alrighty, so entering scores, once a game ends, you're able to go in and then enter the score. The way you would do that is by going over to the game. So we'll find the game on the calendar here, the schedule, and then we will go ahead and click on this record game results button. And then you can enter in, the score of that game. You can say if it was a final, if it was an OT final, if it was canceled, if it was rescheduled or forfeited from here as well. So that's actually how you would go ahead and mark a game as forfeit. You would go into here and just leave these blank and then have it be forfeit. Or if it's rescheduled, you can choose the reschedule option as well. And then it actually gives you a little pop-up here, which allows you to reschedule those games or that game to a different time, and then also again notify the participant. Communication is a big thing, especially with scheduling when they change things like that. If we choose forfeit here, it just asks us to give you the winner. So whoever did not forfeit the game. Canceled, we'll just go ahead and mark it as canceled, and then we can notify the participants as well. And then the other thing is if we're putting in an actual final score here, there's these check boxes down here to exclude the game from standings calculations for this team. So for instance, if we don't want a team to receive a 1 point for a loss, we can choose to exclude them from the standings so that they wouldn't receive a point there. And then we can go ahead and save that. And then we can also, all right, so let's keep going here actually. If you do have captains on teams, you are able to allow them to edit. I believe that may be adult only, but it may be for youth programs as well. And then, so I believe that we got through most of the content here. I did want to go back and show you guys a few things in terms of the schedules and standings here. So 1 second here, there was a couple things. So, all right, the divisions was one of them. So if we go into teams here, and the first thing actually we would need to go do is actually go into preferences and use divisions. So we can enable divisions, and we can show the list of divisions on the program profile page as well. And then if we go over here to teams and pools, we're able to, I actually have a couple already created in here. We can add a pool, just have this one be AAA, and we can add a description, have this be advanced. And then from there, we're actually able to move the teams into those specific divisions. And we're able to use those divisions when we create that schedule. I believe that it was actually, if we went to the generate schedule option here, we did regular round robin. Yeah, it actually asks you if you want to, choose a specific division to create that for, create the schedule for. This one. I didn't have any teams within the division, but if we had those teams in there, we could specify, which divisions that we're actually creating those tournaments for. And then again, we said that this was a tournament program, so the schedule is on the grouped area here as well on the menu bar. So this is a nice thing to be able to have. Even if you're not running a tournament, you may want to use the tournament program type just so you could have all of the schedules populate on the same page. So you can see on the left side here, we have dodgeball 21, 10U, 11U, 12U, and 9U. So we have all the different age groups. We can publish the games directly from here. We can publish the events directly from here. And you can also edit, the full program of all the different age groups in this tournament's events all in one spot, which is super nice to be able to have all in one. We can also change this over to a calendar view to see it a little bit differently. The other programs here, the other schedule pages also have that as well. So yeah, if we click on here, we can go ahead and view the schedule specifically for this age group, but we would get in a calendar view. And we also have these filters here, so you can filter through these and change what you're actually looking for. So say we wanted to go for a specific team, team one, we can go by pool and say we go back here. So yeah, this will just show team one's calendar now. Alrighty, so thank you all for joining. We are going to jump over into the Q&A session now. So if you have any questions that you didn't already put into there, please go ahead and do that now. And I will go ahead and be able to answer those questions for you. Alrighty, so let's go back here. Let me go ahead and pause this. Let's actually just go back into LeagueApps. Alrighty, so got a few questions here. Let's see. Okay, great question. Can coaches edit or make edits to a schedule? Yes, they can, is the answer to that one. And if we go back here into the program, we would need to actually, this is something I believe is on, go to preferences. Yeah, so it's actually on this one because this is a tournament program. The schedule features and preferences are actually on the main groups program here. If this was any other program type, you would have to go into a sub program and then go to settings and preferences. If it's a standalone program, it'll just be on the standalone settings and then preferences here. And then what we're able to do is we're able to allow staff to add and edit events. So say you want your coaches to be able to control their schedule, we'll be able to click on allow staff to add and edit events. And then what that'll do is it will allow for those coaches to actually be able to edit the schedule, add events from the member side of things. So they don't need to have admin access to the back end. They can actually go ahead and do that directly from the member console if they go to their team and schedule. Second here. All right, so what other questions do we have? How do I publish scores of games? Okay, we kind of went through that one. What's the difference? Okay, so the difference between adding a game and event, great question. An event can actually only have one team tied to it. So if we go over here to the schedule, this one's not a good example because it's on the group level, but so if we go into the schedule here, if you add a game, there are 2 slots for teams, so you can choose team 1 and team 2. And then you still have, the options of the different event types here, in terms of you're creating a game, but that's going to be the big difference here is being able to select multiple teams for a specific game versus an event. You're only able to select a single team for that event. But obviously you can make it recurring. So if you needed to make practices for all your teams, you would just choose, team 3 recurring event, create it, and you'd have them all. Team 2 recurring event, create all the practices as long as they're all at the same time, of course. Alrighty, what else do we have here? Okay, so where does the location and sublocation information get pulled from? So that information actually gets pulled from your account. If we go into manage here and then locations, we are able to add a location. And what you need for that location is the name of it, the address, the city, state, and postal code as well. You can also add a description here. And then once it's created, you will be able to choose that location for either your schedule, for events, or even also when you're setting up the program, you can set a location for the program as well. And then you asked about the sublocations too. So this one's actually perfect because it shows you, we have a nice image here. When we create these when we create these locations, they actually populate on the LeagueApps side of things, on the member side of things, with a locations page, and it gives you the Google Maps image along with directions to it. And then here we have the locations here, or sublocations, and then you can assign those. So these would be like specific courts or specific fields, and then you're actually able to use those when we were going through the schedule generator process. You're able to select those scheduled or those sublocations for a specific event. You're able to do that with the schedule import tool as well, because you'll have a location column as well as a sublocation column where you can add in, like I said, that specific field if it's a complex and they have multiple fields. Let's see, what else do we have here? Why can't you reschedule the canceled game? Okay, so that's a good one. So once a scheduled, so why can't I reschedule a canceled game? Reason behind that is because you can't change a schedule that, or I should say an event that's already been canceled. So if the event was canceled, you would actually have to go in and create a new event. If the event is just going to be rescheduled, I would recommend probably just sending out a note to all the participants before that game and tell them, hey, because if you don't know when it's going to be rescheduled to, you can say, hey, the game's being canceled, and send that message out to them and say, we're going to be rescheduling this to a later time. Or if you know what that time is going to be, obviously, you can go right into the schedule there, if you're the coach, or if you are an administrator, and update that to the new rescheduled time and then send out that notification email. Let's see. Separate default locations as well as subset for scheduling events. Okay, so that was kind of answered. We went through the locations here. Yeah, if you wanted to create locations and sublocations, we would go ahead over to manage and locations. And then you can add the location, and then that allows you to use that location. There aren't technically default ones, but you're able to, I guess these technically would be your defaults, but you're not able to add in any new ones to the schedule itself or to the program. You need to add the location here on the locations page first, and then you'll be able to then choose that location to use for, like I said, a program or even your events and your calendar items. Okay, so okay, so got another question, it looks like. So yeah, I believe so. The question is, I was in a schedule and added the playoff team schedule for the first round using seeds. Example, team 11, seed 1, 22, seed 16. And you couldn't add the schedule to rounds 2 and 3, as you can only input to be announced. And the example was seed 1 wins would play seed 8 in the next round. It sounds like for that one, that likely you're using a single elimination tournament bracket generator. Um, and so you may want to actually use that um, again and just generate another bracket for the next round. Um, or I believe that you should be able to also generate a full tournament bracket, and then it should match up and the correct seeds should meet each other in the finals. Let's see. Is there a way to tell if you've double booked a field? Um, so there isn't really a way for the system to know, but you would be able to go in and check the games on the schedule and make sure that the field locations aren't doubled up. Again, the system won't be able to prevent you from selecting multiple times, or I should say locations for an event. I shouldn't say that actually, because it will, if it's within the same program, if the schedule is all in the same program, I believe that it probably will only allow you to schedule those games on certain fields at certain times. But if you have schedules in multiple programs, so for instance, we have a tournament program, we have a league program, we have club teams, those programs their schedules won't be able to talk to each other and tell that, one scheduled event is already on the calendar for at this specific field. You would have to go in and check that on each of the schedules. Okay, get some more questions coming in here. All right. Okay, yeah. So if a coach has multiple coaching duties for multiple teams, is there a way for the schedules not to overlap automatically? Currently, no, there's not a way to do this. You would need to identify the conflicts beforehand with the coach when you're creating the events or the schedule. Or another thing is if you allow those coaches to be able to edit those events and those games, that coach would technically be able to say, hey, I have a conflict with one of my other teams. Let me go ahead and move that scheduled event to a different time. That way we don't have that conflict. So giving your coaches, if you trust them and you want to be able to give them that access and the privileges to be able to edit those schedules, that would be something that they would be able to edit on their end of things. Or obviously you on the admin side could also go in and edit the event for them, but the system won't automatically be able to kind of sniff that out beforehand. And book the field. Is there a way to add an event game with teams in different programs? Yes. Okay. Yeah. So this is a good one too. We actually went through something about this before, but it wasn't really fully into depth. So this is a good one. So if we go into the dodgeball tournament that I have here, say 10U and 11U, or I'm sorry, say 9U and 10U would play each other. They're really in the same division, but we just wanted them broken out into age groups, and say that, I'm sorry, I'm not sharing my screen here, so let me start doing that. Say we have this dodgeball tournament and 10U and 9U are going to be in the same pool really, but you needed them in their different age groups. What we could do is if we go in here to the schedule, we'll be able to add a game. And actually I may need to just add, so we said 10U and 9U, so let me just go into schedule, go into teams. Okay, so we actually do have teams in there. Perfect. So we're going to the schedule here. We said 10U and 9U. So we will add a game here. Say we're going to have team 1 in the 10U division play a team in the 9U division. What we'll be able to do is we choose the team in separate program here, and then it gives you another drop down or another pop out with the program that you're actually going to be choosing that team from. So you choose the team in separate program. We would then choose that program specifically. So say we do, like I said, the 2021 9U, and then you choose the team within that program. So so it's not too confusing. We'll have team 2 here. So now you have a scheduled game between teams that are not within the same division. And actually, what you can see here is that there's a tournament from last year that's included as well. So the way it works is that if you have the same program type, so for instance, you have leagues, say you have multiple leagues, they're all different programs. You'll be able to choose, as long as it's set up as that same program type, the other teams that are in that separate program. So like I said, for instance, here we're in the 2021 tournaments, dodgeball tournaments, but you see that we have the 2020 tournament in here as well. We could actually schedule a game with a completely different tournament if we needed to, or not a completely different tournament, but you know, a different side of things maybe if we needed to. And then, you know, we can go ahead and set in our dates and times here. And then we have, so another thing is once you create that game, you'll see that it's a cross-program game because it'll have this little symbol right here. And then if you hover over it, it actually tells you this is a cross-program team game. So nice little option to have as well. And again, just make sure that when those programs are being created, they are the same program type. So if it's a league, make sure that you're creating another league, and then you can have teams you know, within those 2 leagues play each other. Let's see if we have anything else in here. Alrighty, I don't think that we have many other questions here. Anyone else have any other questions? You know, feel free to shoot them into the chat, or you know, follow up with us on either support, or you know, reach out to your account manager. Hope you guys all enjoyed the webinar here, and you know, learned some new information about the LeagueApps scheduling tools that we offer. And let us know if you have any other additional questions.